Please join in our gathering hymn, Morning Has Come. Good morning. Welcome, everyone, to worship here at First Unitarian Church in Portland, Oregon. Our mission here is to nurture the individual spirit and together work toward building the beloved community. We're so glad that you decided to join us this morning. After the service, you're invited to join fellow congregants for a virtual social hour. You'll see a QR code after the service that will take you there. And I'd like to point you towards some special things coming up this month at the church. You can find details for all of these in our weekly e-news or at the church's website. This afternoon at 1 p.m. there will be a class for newcomers to the church. So if you would like to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and its history, about the history of this congregation, as well as more about getting involved and membership, please join us this afternoon on Zoom. You can sign up for that at the church's website. And a new series of free anti-racist book and podcast discussion groups are now accepting registrations. There are several to choose from, and the first of these begin later this week. I encourage you to check out the e-news or the website to see if one of them may be just what you need as we all try to turn our focus toward positive transformation. And next Saturday, January 30th, join us for our annual Seminary for a Day. This year we will welcome the Reverend Meg Riley, who recently retired as Senior Minister of the Church of the Larger Fellowship, and who now serves as one of the moderators of the Unitarian Universalist Association. Meg will talk about how we, as a denomination, can live out our aspiration to become a more welcoming community. She will explore our relative success in welcoming members of the LGBTQ+ community in recent decades, and what lessons we might take from that work in our building of the beloved community today. And finally, it is my pleasure to say a word about our guest preacher this morning. The Reverend Connie Simon serves as minister of the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati, Ohio. She describes her ministry as helping people heal from the inside out so that they can do the outside-in work our world so desperately needs. Reverend Connie is an avid historian, serving as editor of the Dictionary of Unitarian Universalist Biographies. She's currently working on a history of the African Union Methodist Church. I had the privilege of being one of Connie's professors at Meadville Lombard Theological School, and of preaching for her installation at the Cincinnati Church, which is the church where I found Unitarian Universalism long ago. I'm so glad she can join us and be with us virtually today. Once again, welcome everyone. I will light the flame of our chalice here on the chancel now. If you have a chalice or a candle with you, now is a good time to light it. We are Unitarian Universalists. We light this chalice in faith, in hope, and in love. Our call to worship this morning is a video created for the People's Inauguration that many of us celebrated on Thursday. It includes the vow created out of the promises members of this congregation made to move forward toward the beloved community, together with music composed by member Daryl Grant and performed by Daryl, Bethany Small, and Chance Hayden.
Of love is a prayer on the wings of a dove. This resolution of love is a vision that poets dream of. This resolution of love will turn back all the shedding of blood. This resolution of love is a prayer to the heavens above. So much love, so effortlessly, feelings are so hard to believe. One true heart, magnificently lifts me high to this ever new resolution of love. Like looking into the eye of the sun. This resolution of love will forever turn two into one.
Love is what calls us to the sacred work of seeking justice.
We, as Unitarian Universalists, were called to create this people's oath.
I
Vow to practice our faith principles
that uphold democracy and justice for all peoples and beings.
To the best of my ability, I will engage in collective action
to dismantle white supremacy, imperialism, and oppression.
protect our shared earth home,
and build the beloved community.
I will strive to listen to and be guided by those most impacted by injustice,
and not to deny painful truths.
I vow to be courageous,
learn from my mistakes,
and stay engaged
with compassion and love.
So desperately search out truth and find it so hard to receive all that lives will ever be calling for belief in a new resolution of love, one the Spirit can never give.
This is my resolution.
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 Come now, and let us worship together. And I invite you to join now with us in singing, "Make Channels for the Streams of Love."
Channels for the streams of love.
Please join now in our responsive reading. It's entitled, My High Resolve by Howard Thurman. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. Please join now in singing our doxology, Spirit of Life.
Compassion
It's our practice here at First Unitarian to share our offering with organizations in the community that are in concert with our own mission. For the month of January, we are sharing our plate with the Black Resilience Fund. Started in response to the murder of George Floyd, the fund works with Portlanders from all backgrounds to make an immediate difference in their lives, in the lives of Black Portlanders, and to advocate for systemic change. To date, the fund has received over 10,000 requests for financial relief and has raised over $2 million to ensure each applicant gets real and tangible support. The Black Resilience Fund is a project of the Portland nonprofit Brown Hope. You can give through the QR code that will appear or use the Donate Now button on Boxcast. Thank you for your generosity that sustains the ministry of this congregation and our partners in the larger community.
Well, the road rolls out like a welcome mat to a better place than the one we're at. I ain't got no kind of plan, but I've had all of this town I can stand. I got friends out on the coast. We can jump in the river and see what floats. We've been saving for a rainy day. Let's speed the storm and be on our way. And it don't matter to me, wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chances and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny, you can be my four-leaf clover, starting over. This might not be an easy time. There's rivers to cross and hills to climb. Some days we might fall apart, and some nights might feel cold and dark. But nobody wins afraid of losing, and the hard roads are the ones worth choosing. Someday we'll look back and smile and know it was worth every mile. And it don't matter to me, wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chances and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny, you can be my four-leaf clover, starting over. Starting over. And it don't matter to me, wherever we are is where I wanna be. And honey, for once in our life, let's take our chances and roll the dice. I can be your lucky penny, you can be my four-leaf clover, starting over, starting over.
We take time each week to name the joys and the concerns of members of our community. You can request an announcement of a joy or a sorrow by writing to parishconcerns@firstunitarianportland.org. You can also request a prayer by writing to prayer@First Unitarian. Those prayer requests are held by our ministers and our lay ministers throughout the week. Joanna Catherine Wiebe, birth mother of congregant Bill Smith and mother-in-law of staff member Dana Buell, died on January 14th at the age of 71, just 9 short weeks after learning she had cancer. She died peacefully at home, accompanied by her loving husband and 2 of her 3 sons, including Bill. Joanna, or Grandma Ojana, as Zola called her, expressed her boundless love, creativity, and curiosity in every aspect of her life, from prolific drawing to her job as a creative executive at Amazon, and did so with the humility of one who knows the divine. Her memory is a blessing to her expansive family, her co-workers, and to the hundreds of people who were fortunate to call her friend. John Rosette, our much-loved front office receptionist, has tested positive for COVID-19. John is being treated at home, where Steve and his pups are good medicine for him. Please hold John in your thoughts and prayers and send healing energy his way for a complete and rapid recovery. Member Lori Shentelevin has been recovering from complications that followed a knee replacement at the end of December. Those complications included an aneurysm behind her knee and a severe infection. The very good news is that Lori moved to a rehab facility this week and reports good progress. We hold Lori and wish her continued progress in her recovery. And member Cindy Metcalf, her husband Eric, and big brother Colin are excited to announce the birth of Wyatt Thomas Metcalf on January 19th. Wyatt and Cindy are at home and doing very well. They're receiving lots of help from Daddy, big brother, and Grandma and Grandpa. Cindy is a member of our Grace Choir, and we send her and the family our love and care. Will you pray with me now? Spirit of life and of love, come unto us, be within us and among us. Help us embrace the spirit of new beginning, the spirit of inauguration, not just in our nation, but in our lives. Help us first know gratitude. Gratitude for the relief we feel. It is a gratitude for the absence, for the ending of the assault on truth and the constant chipping away at the modest caring and compassion we had been able to sustain in the past. May we first be grateful for the relief that we feel. But help us also open our hearts to grieve. Spirit of comfort and compassion, we need to grieve for the hundreds of thousands of lives lost, so many of them needlessly, to grieve all of the ways that fairness and safety for so many have been reversed, to grieve the time lost and all the progress that might have been made, to grieve the constraints on even our privileged lives. We have not been able to let our defenses down, to let all of our grief in or out, to know our grief and its deep pain. Spirit, offer us the balm that the spiritual promised we would find in Gilead. And great Spirit of righteousness, let us also know our anger, our rage. May we be gentle and caring people, yes, but anger can be a justified and even a necessary response as we reclaim common ground we feared was lost. A good and justified anger can jumpstart the work of justice. Spirit of love, with gratitude for the relief we feel, making space for long overdue grief and anger justified by our losses, help us turn towards our aspirations, toward our hopes and our dreams. Help us inaugurate this new time in our lives with commitment and with courage and with constancy. May we discover new energy and new ways to allow love to live in our hearts and ultimately in our world. For all of this, on this day, we pray. Let us spend a moment now in silence together. And amen. Let's sing together, Balm in Gilead.
To
present and intentional. This is perhaps the biggest place to practice. Life is not happening to us. We are learning to be in the actual current movement, to recognize where we have choice. In a terrifying twist, it turns out we always have it. So the great question is how to be intentional in the present moment, to take responsibility for your state of being and for your life. Another participant teacher in the community of practice, Jane Sung Ibai, asked us to consider, what if I am responsible for everything? It's not a singular task to be responsible for what happens in the world. We do not exist or transform in isolation. We are in this universe. We are actively reflecting on how to be in our lives, to best embody our greatness and to yield a more liberated future for ourselves and thus, in the fractal sense, for all existence. There is a lot to be careful of. We are not yet masterful, even though there are moments of collective genius. Sometimes we misread each other, push each other too hard, get defensive, or give unsolicited co-evolution pressure. Sometimes what is happening in the world is so terrifying and urgent that we forget our complexity or wonder why we would spend time on ourselves or take time for our friendships when there's so much external work to do. What I am noticing is that it's not a privilege to practice co-evolution through friendship. It is the deeper work. I believe it is how communities have survived. I believe it is Harriet Tubman going back to free others, because it wasn't enough to free only herself. I believe it is Ubuntu active in my life. I believe it is the freedom that we are longing for, which will never be given to us, which we have to create, the pulsing life force of the collective body we are birthing, the rhythm of a shared heart. Good morning. It is my pleasure and my honor to be in worship with you, albeit virtually, this morning. I want to express my gratitude and my love to my friends and colleagues, Reverend Bill and the amazing Duro Farrar, and to everyone else who made this morning possible. When I was a kid, I would say, oh, I can't wait until Christmas, or I can't wait until the end of the school year, or I can't wait until this or that thing happens. And my mom would say, time is the most precious thing you have. Don't wish it away. My mom's been gone for many years now, but I have to think that if she'd seen 2020, she would have understood why I was so glad to see it go and 2021 arrive. So here we are, 2021. I've been thinking about this new year and all that I plan to do in it. Anti-oppression work, justice organizing, planning programs, denominational work, a little bit of exercise. My plate is getting full. Then I realized that I was getting ahead of myself again, focusing on the future. Maybe I should just think about now. In a 1967 speech at Riverside Church, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. observed the world was in the midst of revolutionary times, with folks revolting against old systems of exploitation and oppression from which new systems of justice and equality were being born. He told us that our only hope lies in our ability to recapture the revolutionary spirit and go out into a sometimes hostile world, declaring eternal hostility to poverty, to racism and militarism, so that we can boldly change the status quos and unjust mores of our society. He warned that we couldn't procrastinate anymore. It was time to act. We are faced with the fact that tomorrow is today, he said. We are confronted with the fierce urgency of now. In this unfolding conundrum of life and history, there is such a thing as being too late. The fierce urgency of now. Now. King meant today, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Today, now. We saw parts of our nation rise up with the fierce urgency of now following the horrific killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Casey Goodson Jr., and too many others. We saw and heard it in the anguish and rage-filled cries of those who declared enough and demanded change. We saw the fierce urgency of now in filled-to-capacity COVID wards and in the eyes of overworked and overwhelmed doctors and nurses. We saw it in the faces of those who lost jobs and businesses, homes and livelihoods, and in those who still wonder how they will feed their hungry children, not tomorrow, not later today, but how they will feed them now. Einstein told us that time is an illusion. Humans created minutes and seconds, and we created concepts such as early and late. Time has only the meaning that we give it. So then, what is now? Well, I talked about King's perception of it, but I think we need to go a little deeper. Now is smaller than an hour, smaller than a minute. When I think of now, I think of the smallest possible flash of time, an instant, a moment. In my pre-ministry life, among other things, I worked for Franklin Covey, the productivity company. 30 years ago, Dr. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, wrote at great length about the space between stimulus and response. He said when we live in a reactive mode, there is no space between stimulus and response. Now is almost non-existent. Something happens to us and we react. But when we are proactive, we can more fully experience that space between stimulus and response. Dr. Covey described proactivity as more than merely taking initiative. To him, it meant that we're responsible for our lives, that our behavior is a function of our decisions, not our conditions, that we can subordinate our feelings to our values. We have the initiative and the responsibility to make things change. In that space between stimulus and response lies self-awareness, imagination, conscience, and independent will. In that space lies the freedom to choose. Now, Covey didn't really make up all this stuff by himself. You can read similar thinking in Viktor Frankl's story of how he found self-awareness and liberty while imprisoned in a Nazi death camp. When I got to seminary back in 2015, I realized that Covey was essentially talking about something known as process theology. Process theology or philosophy holds that we are always becoming, always changing, always growing, always influenced by and affected by our own experiences and the world around us. We use everything we've ever known, everything we've ever been, everything we've ever experienced, and process it to become something new, to create new experiences, new events, and new knowledge. Robert Messla described it this way: all things flow. Reality is relational through and through. Reality is a social process. Freedom is inherent in the world, he said. To be an individual, whether a human mind or an elementary particle, is to be self-creative. But each individual must create itself out of all that has gone before. Past decisions both provide and limit present possibilities. Within these limits, the future is open. Experience is rich and complex. Adequacy to this wealth of experience is the ultimate test of our ideas. The world is rich with life. The universe does not center around human beings. Instead, we must come to see ourselves as participants in a complex and fragile web of relationships in which each creature has some value. So, an important question in this area, in thinking of process theology, has been the role of God. If it's all about our past events and our experiences and how we make change and how we become new through the exercise of our free will, what is the role of God? Is there room for God in this system? In many traditional biblical theologies, God is all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-controlling. There is no room for free thought or free will. Everything that happens is already determined. But in a process model, nothing is already determined. God is not in control and does not predetermine the outcome. Gary Kowalski writes that we live in an open-ended cosmos. For better or worse, we make our own destiny, and through a multitude of decisions, large and small, we shape the course of our own evolution. God is involved in that process, not as a commanding or coercive presence, but as a persuasive lure, the promise of richer, more rewarding experiences to those who choose wisely and well. So let's think about this in practice. Imagine a big circle, a yin and yang symbol. God is two things in one. There's a constant, unchanging part of God that is pure equity, pure justice, and pure love. And there's a changing part of God, a part that doesn't stay the same, that responds to the world that we individuals have created. This changing part absorbs and feels the pain we inflict on one another and on our world through our abuse of the planet, through war and through hatred and racism. But both parts are always there. Just as we are always changing and always becoming, so is God. The yin and the yang always exist. Now, when I studied process theology in seminary, I had no problem understanding and accepting the concept that we're always becoming. I got this part, that we are affected by our pasts and we make new choices that become our future. That part was easy for me to grasp. But I remember saying to my professor one day, yeah, I get all that, but what is God? Then one day the light bulb went on. God is love. God is life. God is nature. I am God. You are God. The world is God. Everything is God. So, as process thinking has evolved, many of its adherents have moved beyond the notion of God at all. Mark Taylor proposes that we're in an after-God world. Since God is everything, we're beyond that. He says that in a world where to be is to be connected, absolutism must give way to relationalism, in which everything is codependent and co-evolves. After God, the divine is not elsewhere, but is the emergent creativity that disfigure, and refigures the infinite fabric of life. A religion without God issues in ethics without absolutes to promote and preserve the creative emergence of life across the globe. Kowalski challenges us to try to pick out one piece of the universe to study in isolation. He says we'll discover that it's connected to everything else. Every organism exists within a network of relationships. I am an event. You are an event. So is a bear, a rainforest, and the winding of the double helix within all of us. All are active participants within the bigger picture. We're all part of the ever-changing, ever-happening process that is our existence. We are all in this world and of this world. We are this world, all of us, part of the process, acted upon by God, by love. So let's get back to now. Over the last couple of years, the work of activist writer and thinker Adrienne Marie Brown has been very popular in the justice world. I understand her work as being a kind of process philosophy. She doesn't refer to God. Instead, she suggests that love is the key. In her book, Emergent Strategy, she echoes the words of Dr. King. When we are engaged in acts of love, we humans are at our best and most resilient. If love were the central practice of a new generation of organizers and spiritual leaders, it would have a massive impact on what we consider organizing. If the goal was to increase the love rather than winning or dominating a constant opponent, she says, I think we could actually imagine liberation from constant oppression. And how do we do that? By being in the now, by being self-aware, by exercising our conscience and our independent will, by evaluating and considering all that has come before us, all that has happened before, and then using our imagination to create our response to the injustice that exists in our world, by allowing the force of love, the divine, to act upon us. When we are in the now, we can truly use our power. I'm not talking about the power that comes with a particular title or the power that comes from privilege. I'm talking about personal power. When we fully exercise our personal power, we allow our self-awareness, our imagination, our conscience, and our independent will to be acted upon by the divine power of love. And in that moment, in that now, we can transform ourselves and the world around us. We recognize our interdependence with all beings and with the universe itself. We see our unlimited potential to co-create together a world in which all are seen and all are valued. When we fully exercise our personal power, we can liberate ourselves and one another from the injustices of oppression and hatred. When we fully exercise our personal power, we can boldly challenge the status quos and unjust mores of our society. Dr. King gave us a brief glimpse of what is possible. In the 50 years plus since his death, our vision of what is possible has only grown. I still dream of a world where there is no poverty, no hunger, no hatred. I still dream of a world where there is equity and justice for all. Imagine the possibilities. We can do it. We can do this, my friends. Build something new, something better, something more. We just have to act, to be present in the now. That's all. Be present and let the power of love do its work. Adrienne Marie Brown shares that by meditating on love, she was led to realize that nothing is required of me more than being and creating. Simultaneously being present with who I am, who we are as a species, and creating who we must become, and within that, who I must become. Liberation and transformation are possible. And it starts with each of us recognizing our power from the inside out, in those tiniest of moments, in that sweet spot of co-creation, in the fierce urgency of now.
Will you pray with me now? Spirit of life and of love, known by many names and no name at all, great mystery at the heart of things. In this time we call now, help us do the work that is ours to do, the grieving and the gratitude, the searching for certainty and presence to the mystery in which we live, the figuring things out and the reverence for so much beyond our knowing. All of that, in all of its complexity and often contradictions, all of that work is ours to do, so that we bring our best selves to this business of living. Not perfect selves, no, but our best selves, so that we can lean into living, we can find a place for faith and hope and love in our hearts, so that we can cast our lot on the side of love and help the arc of the universe renew its bending toward justice now. May that be so, and amen. Let's sing together, "Create in me a clean heart." May we come to mark this day as a new beginning, when we returned to the work of Spirit from the inside out and discovered a clean heart and a right spirit, a new clarity born of this time of distancing and of the losses we have faced, a new clarity illuminating our path forward, at least a little way forward on our journey toward wholeness. This is the day we have been given. Let us rejoice in it and be glad. Go in peace, practice love. Amen.